Hello friends and welcome to CEC online lectures. Today I'll start with the third part of microscopic evaluation of crude herbal drugs. In the first two parts we discussed about the chemomicroscopic evaluation and qualitative microscopic evaluation of crude drugs. What are the various tissues that are being studied under qualitative evaluation? What are the different ergastic cell contents that are being studied under qualitative evaluation? And how these help in identification of a crude drug as well as its differentiation from its allied species or adulterants. So in the third part of microscopic evaluation of crude drugs, I'll be discussing about the quantitative microscopic evaluation. Now the quantitative microscopic evaluation involves the measurement of the size of the microscopic structures or determination of their number. Now quantitative microscopic evaluation can be done with the help of linear measurements by determining the leaf constants that are specifically helpful in case of leafy drugs, and the third one is by Lycopodium spore method. Now the linear measurements involve the measurement of the size of various microscopic structures such as tissues, stomata, trichomes, vessels, fibers, and so on and so forth. Along with microscopic tissues, these are also used to measure the size of various ergastic cell contents, especially the size of starch grains and calcium oxalate crystals, because these form an important identification feature for a crude drug. Now to perform the linear measurement or to measure the size of the microscopic structures, we require two types of scales, namely eyepiece micrometer and stage micrometer. As you can see in the slide, the picture A shows you the eyepiece micrometer and picture B shows you the stage micrometer. Now the eyepiece micrometer is placed in the eyepiece of the microscope and therefore the name is given eyepiece micrometer, and the stage micrometer is placed on the stage below the objective lens and therefore the name is given stage micrometer. Now both the micrometers have a scale engrossed on them. As you can see in the picture that the eyepiece micrometer has a scale engrossed on it, and in the stage micrometer, though the scale is not clear, but it also has a scale engrossed in the circle that is given in the center of the stage micrometer. Now the scale on the eyepiece micrometer does not have any specific measurement, whereas the scale on the stage micrometer has a size of 1 millimeter or it may have a size of 2 millimeters. And each millimeter on the stage micrometer is further divided into 100 divisions. So we can say that 100 divisions on the stage micrometer are equivalent to 1 millimeter and one division is equivalent to 0.01 millimeter, or we can say 10 micrometers. So we can say that each division on a stage micrometer is equivalent to 10 micrometer. Whereas as the eyepiece micrometer does not have any specific measurement, we first calibrate the eyepiece micrometer with the help of stage micrometer. Now to calibrate the eyepiece micrometer with the help of stage micrometer, we place both the micrometers in their respective positions, that is eyepiece micrometer in eyepiece of microscope and stage on the stage micrometer on the stage of microscope. Now once both the micrometers are placed in the respective places, we try to align their scales and try to look for the divisions that completely overlap each other. Now as you can see in the slide, in the picture, the 50th division of the stage micrometer completely overlaps or coincides with the first division of the eyepiece micrometer. And when we move along the scale, we find that the 60th division of the stage micrometer coincides or completely overlaps the 5.5th division of the eyepiece micrometer. So we can say that 5.5 divisions of eyepiece micrometer are equivalent to 10 divisions of stage micrometer. Now each division of stage micrometer is equivalent to 10 micrometers. So we can say that 5.5 divisions of eyepiece micrometer are equivalent to 100 micrometer. 10 into 10, 100 micrometers. So one division of eyepiece micrometer will be 100 divided by 5.5, that is equivalent to 18.18 micrometers. And so we get a calibration factor, or we can say that we get the size of a single division of the eyepiece micrometer, which is 18.18 micrometer in this example. So this is how the eyepiece micrometer is calibrated with the help of stage micrometer. And next we move on how we determine the size of the microscopic structures. Now before we measure the size, we have to prepare the sample. Now for linear measurements, we can get a sample in the powder form, or we can get a sample as such intact form, that is piece of a root or stem or bark, or we can also go for linear measurements in a transverse section. Now if we get a powder sample, we have to prepare the sample by using various clearing agents, which we discussed in the second part of the microscopic evaluation. We use various clearing agents such as chloral hydrate, lactochloral, lactophenol, and so on and so forth. Then we clear the powder material from various coloring matter or various pigments, and then we mount that powder material in the suitable mountant, and then we observe. Similarly, here also we will prepare the powder sample by using clearing agents, and then mount the sample when the sample is sufficiently cleaned. We mount the sample in the suitable mountant, and then we observe. But if we get a transverse section, or we get an intact plant part, say for example root or a stem or a bark, then to prepare such kind of sample, we need certain agents which can completely separate various tissues from these intact part or the transverse section. And such agents are known as disintegrating agents. It means they will disintegrate the complete part. There are various disintegrating agents that are being used. For example, nitric acid potassium chlorate mixture, then nitric acid chromic acid mixture, which is also used for disintegrating transverse section, and caustic alkalis. Now we take the required plant part, say we take a small piece of a stem or a root, then we will boil with a suitable disintegrating agent, and nitric acid potassium chlorate is largely used as a disintegrating agent in numerous cases. So we'll boil the material with the disintegrating agent for sufficient period of time till the material gets softened enough that it disintegrates whenever we apply a slight pressure on it. So once the material is softened enough, we disintegrate it with applying slight pressure with the help of glass rod, and then with the help of a dissecting needle, we pick up small amount of the disintegrated material, place it on the slide, add a suitable mountant on it, place the cover slip, and then we observe. Same procedure is followed in case of transverse sections also. Now once the samples have been prepared and they are mounted on the slide, now we start observing the slide, and we try to align the eyepiece micrometer along the length of the microscopic structure or along its width. So we will align the eyepiece micrometer along the length or the width of the desired microscopic structure, for which we have to determine the length or its width. So as you can see the picture in the slide, I have taken an example of stomata, and you can clearly see that the eyepiece micrometer is aligning along the width of the stomata. And from here we can count the number of divisions that covers the entire width of the stomata, and then we will multiply those number of divisions with the calibration factor, say for example 18.18 micrometers in our case. So if we look into the slide, approximately 24 divisions of the eyepiece micrometer covers the entire width of the stomata, as we can see in the picture. Now to determine the width of the stomata, we will multiply these 24 divisions with 18.18 micrometer, and we'll get the width of the stomata. Similarly, if you want to determine the length of the fiber, we will align the eyepiece micrometer along the length of the fiber. Then we will count the number of the divisions that cover the entire length of the fiber, and then we multiply those number of divisions with the calibration factor to get the entire size of the fiber. So similarly, other microscopic structures such as size of epidermal cells, size of trichomes, size of vessels, their width, as well as size of calcium oxalate crystals and starch gains can be determined by linear measurements. Now, how these linear measurements help in identification or differentiation of the two drugs? As you can see in the slide, I have taken example of two different varieties of podophyllum. First one is Podophyllum peltatum, commonly known as American podophyllum, and second is the Podophyllum hexandrum, which is commonly known as Indian podophyllum. Now, the starch grains in American podophyllum has a size range of 3 to 25 micrometers in diameter, whereas in case of Indian podophyllum, the starch grains have a size range of 7 to 34 micrometers in dia. So this is how the two varieties can be differentiated on the basis of starch grains. Similarly, the calcium oxalate crystals in case of American podophyllum has a size range of 30 to 100 micrometers, and calcium oxalate crystals have size above the 60 micrometer dia. Whereas in case of Indian podophyllum, the size of calcium oxalate crystals has a range of 20 to 60 micrometers, and rarely the size go beyond 60 micrometer in case of Indian podophyllum. So this is again how you can differentiate the two varieties on the basis of the size of the ergastic cell contents. Now the second is the leaf constants. Now since the name is leaf constants, these are more important or more specific in case of leafy drugs, and these are the certain measurements or the counts that help in differentiating between the two closely related species of a leafy drug or their adulterants. Now, leaf constants can be determined with the help of an instrument or equipment. We call it as camera lucida. The name camera lucida has been derived from the Latin word which means light chamber, and with the help of stage micrometer. Now, the camera lucida was first discovered by William Hyde Wollaston in 1802 for determination of various leaf constants. And it is an apparatus that is designed in such a manner that the object which we are observing under microscope that can be traced on the paper simultaneously. Now, suppose you are observing xylem vessel or fibers under the microscope on a slide, you can completely trace those structures on a paper, and from there we can measure their size or we can count the structures. For that, we place camera lucida over the eyepiece of the microscope. Now the camera lucida has such a structure that basically it is having a prism that is placed over the microscope, eyepiece of the microscope, and on the right side we have a mirror, as you can see in the picture. Now whatever we are observing under the microscope, it is reflected from the stage through the objective lens, through the eyepiece to our eyes, and since there is a prism in the camera lucida and the camera lucida is over the eyepiece micrometer, the image from the prism also get reflected towards the mirror. So we can say the image is reflected towards the mirror as well as image is going to our eye. So we can also see the image, and that image is also reflected onto the mirror. And from the mirror, that image is again further reflected downwards onto the paper. So simultaneously we can see the paper as well as our object, and we can just trace that object on the paper. You can clearly see the optic diagram of camera lucida on the slide. Now To measure or to determine the leaf constants, we first have to draw a particular square on the paper with the help of stage micrometer. Now, before I go into the procedure of drawing the square, first I'll go to the various leaf constants. And the leaf constants most commonly determined are the stomatal number. Stomatal number is normally defined as the number of the stomata in per millimeter square area of the leaf lamina. Second is the stomatal index, and this term was first used by Timmerman in 1927, and it is nothing but the percentage of the stomata that are present in the per millimeter square of the leaf lamina area. And it is determined by a formula, that is number of stomata divided by the sum of the number of stomata and epidermal cells into 100. Now the question is how to determine these leaf constants. For that, we have to first place the camera lucida over the eyepiece of the microscope. Then we place the stage micrometer on the stage, and then we take a white sheet or a black sheet on a cardboard, and we adjust the mirror in such a manner that we can clearly observe the paper when we are observing through the eyepiece of the microscope. Now, once that adjustment is made, we first try to trace the divisions of the stage micrometer. So as I told you that stage micrometer is normally divided into 100 divisions, or we can say that we just try to overlap those divisions on the paper. Now, once we have traced those divisions on the paper, we measure the distance between each division. So if the distance between each division is constant, it's fine. Otherwise, we have to slightly tilt our board. Then again, we have to trace the divisions, and the tilting of the board continues and the process continues till we get the distance between each division constant. So once it is done, we measure the distance between each division, and thereby we calculate the size of 1 millimeter on the scale, and we draw a square. Once the square is drawn, then we replace the stage micrometer with the sample slide or the slide having the epidermal peel, and then we start tracing the epidermal cells as well as the stomata. Or we can place a cross mark in place of stomata and a plus mark in place of epidermal cells. So once the 1 millimeter square is completely traced, then we count the number of stomata as well as epidermal cells, and from there we can calculate the stomatal number or stomatal index. Now, for getting the correct value of stomatal number or stomatal index, we have to take minimum 10 such determination. This means we have to take, or we have to count the number of stomata or epidermal cells in 10 such 1 millimeter squares. Or as a thumb rule, I will say that greater the number of determinations, lesser is the error. But on an average, not less than 10 divisions should be made. Minimum is 10. So once the 10 squares have been counted, the number of stomata or epidermal cells in those 10 squares have been counted, we take an average of those numbers. That will give you the stomatal number or the index. So as you can see in this slide, I have taken certain examples how the stomatal number or the index helps in differentiating the varieties. As you can see that Caseaceae and angustifolia, the stomatal index on the upper surface is 12.4, whereas the average in case of Casea angustifolia is 19. Similarly, on the lower surface, the average stomatal index is 11.8 in case of Caseaceae, and it is 18.3 in case of Casea angustifolia. Similarly, these values can be used to differentiate different varieties of the drugs As you can see on the slide, I have also taken examples of 3 species of Datura and 3 species of digitalis. So this is how stomatal number and index help in differentiating the drug varieties. So the next leaf constant is the palisade ratio, and it was first introduced by Zornig and Wies in 1925. Now this palisade ratio has been found constant in many species regardless of their geographical location. And it is not suitable for monocot leaves due to lack of consistent differentiation of their mesophyll. Now the palisade ratio is defined as the average number of palisade cells beneath each epidermal cell. Now the initial procedure to determine the palisade ratio is same. We draw a 1 millimeter square with the help of stage micrometer. Then we try to trace the 4 epidermal cells, and by changing the focus of the microscope, we can again trace the palisade cells lying beneath these epidermal cells, as you can see in the slide. Then we count the number of palisade cells lying beneath the 4 epidermal cells, and then we divide it by 4 to get the average number of palisade cells beneath each epidermal cells. So that gives you the palisade ratio. So the next leaf constant is the vein islet number. Now vein islet is nothing but a minute area that is enclosed with the help of veinlets. And Levin in 1927 for the first time determined the vein islet number in different leaves, and independent of the total area of the leaf, and suggested its use for differentiating basically whole or the broken leaf. So you can by determining the vein islet number, we can also differentiate between a whole leaf from its species, or if we are having small pieces of the leaf, then also we can differentiate or identify a particular drug by determining its vein islet number. Now next leaf constant is the vein termination number, and it is defined as the number of the veins terminating in the 1 millimeter area of the leaf lamina. Now Hall and Melville in 1951 for the first time identified the vein termination as a new parameter for the identification of the leaves. So as you can see in this picture, the words written VT represents the vein termination, and the alphabets A represents the vein islet. So you can see wherever A is written, it is a small area enclosed with the help of vein islets, and that represents the veinlets that represent the vein islet. And wherever the veins are ending, I have written VT that represents the vein termination. Now to determine the vein islet number or vein termination number, the procedure is again same. We have to draw a square of 1 millimeter, and then we start tracing the veins or veinlets, and then we count the number of vein islets and vein termination in that particular 1 millimeter square area. Again, the minimum number of divisions required is 10, but in cases of vein islet or termination number, we may go up to 20 divisions. Now in this slide, I have taken again example of Cassia sina and Cassia angustifolia, and how vein islet number and vein termination help in differentiating these two species. We can see that vein islet number in case of Cassia sina ranges from 15 to 29.5, whereas in case of angustifolia it is 19.5 to 22.5. Similarly, vein termination is 32.7 to 40.2 in case of Cassia sina, and 25.9 to 32.8 in case of Cassia angustifolia. Similarly, the other two species of digitalis, that is Purpurea and Lanata, can also be differentiated by determining the vein islet number and vein termination. So this is how these different leaf constants are used in differentiating different leafy drugs. Now the third method of quantitative microscopic evaluation is the Lycopodium spore method. Now this method is not used nowadays, and it has become, I will say, more or less obsolete. So we will not go into detail of this Lycopodium spore method. Now Lycopodium spores are basically obtained from different species of genera Lycopodium and Diphysaestum. but preferably from the Lycopodium clavetrum. Now, Lycopodium spores are exceptionally uniform in size, and they have a size of approximately 25 micrometers, and 1 milligram of Lycopodium spore contains exactly 94,000 spores of Lycopodium. So that is why, because of their uniformity, they are widely used for the quantitative evaluation. Now, Wallace in 1920 proposed this method, and he proposed that Lycopodium spores basically can be used for microscopic evaluation of certain powdered drugs if they have well-defined particles, for example, pollen grains or starch grains, which can be counted, or they have single-layered tissues or cells, so that their area of which may be traced at a definite magnification, and the actual area can be calculated, or they should have particles of uniform thickness, the length of which can be measured at a definite magnification. Now, Lycopodium spore method also helps in determining the percentage purity of a sample. Say, for example, I have taken an example of ginger, and ginger normally contains 286,000 starch grains in 1 milligram powder, and if that ginger is adulterated, one can easily assess that adulteration by counting the number of starch grains. So the starch grains may increase or decrease if the ginger has been adulterated with another drug or some other species. That will cause variation in the number of starch grains. So this is how we determine the purity of the drugs in case of with the help of Lycopodium spore method. And the percentage purity further can be calculated with the help of the formula, as you can see on the slide: N into W into 94,000 into 100 divided by the product of S into M into P, where N is the number of structures under observation. It can be starch grain or oxalate crystals in 25 different fields. Then W is the weight in milligram of the Lycopodium spore taken. Then S is the number of Lycopodium spore in same number of the field, that is 25. Suppose we have taken 1 milligram of the Lycopodium spore, then we will count the number of the Lycopodium spore in those 25 fields. Then M is the weight of the dried sample in milligram what we have taken, that is the sample or the powder sample with say ginger we have taken in our example. And P is the number of the structure under observation in 1 milligram of that particular sample. So by using this formula and putting these values in this formula, we calculate the percentage purity of a particular drug. But as I told you that Lycopodium spore is not used nowadays, it's almost an obsolete method. There are certain disadvantages of this method. It's quite laborious method. It is also very time consuming, and statistical assessment has not been done in this kind of quantitative microscopic evaluation. And as I told you that it is now not widely used because much better methods are available in the market. Now we have in this lecture we have learned how various quantitative microscopic evaluations are done with the help of linear measurements or leaf constants or Lycopodium spore method. Now nowadays various modifications are there in the microscopes that can completely bypass these methods. We can just use those microscope. There are various modern microscopes fitted with various high magnification cameras, and these microscopes are attached with computers having specific softwares, and by using those softwares and clicking the pictures of the sample by using the cameras fitted on the microscope and displaying that picture on the computer screen and using the software, we can easily determine the size or the leaf constants, or we can count the desired microscopic structures, and we can go for the quantitative evaluation of microscopic evaluation of the crude drugs. Now, depending upon your budget, you can look for the different options that are available in the market, various modifications or latest microscopes that are available in the market, softwares that are available in the market. So depending upon the funds available to you, you can always look for such options, and you can bypass these camera lucida methods or the stage and eyepiece micrometer or the linear measurement methods. But for the laboratory scale, these methods are still widely used for the quantitative evaluation of the crude, quantitative microscopic evaluation of these crude drugs. So friends, here we end up with the microscopic evaluation of crude drugs that was covered in 3 parts. First 2 parts were dealing with chemomicroscopic and qualitative evaluation, microscopic evaluation of crude drugs, and in the 3rd part we discussed about the quantitative microscopic evaluation. Now in the next lecture I'll be discussing about the physico-chemical evaluation of the crude drugs. Thank you.